Well, hello everybody, Davis Carman coming to you on this Thursday, August 27th, 2020, and I am going to present to you today 4 ways to make the most of this moment. What is this moment? This is your homeschool week, probably your first week starting back. Maybe you started last week, maybe you're going to start next week, or you're trying to figure things out so you can start in September before things get too far along. But here's one question I got for you to start. Are you still kicking and screaming? When Rachel and I started, we were kicking and screaming that first year. But get this. This week, we started our first week of this school year. We have 7 children, aged 30 to 16. Our 5 oldest have graduated from our homeschool, so they're out of the nest in some way, shape, or form. We still have 2 teenage high school boys here at home that we're trying to finish well. This week, we started our first week of the school year, our 25th year. The first week of our 25th year. Hard to believe. But we were kicking and screaming 25 years ago. So if you are still just hanging on, you're scared to death, you're not alone. There's literally millions of people schooling at home, homeschooling, doing at home with the kids, doing this for the first time. And today I'm going to present to you 4 ways to make the most of this moment. So, oh boy. So here's a few things for you. Whether you are schooling at home because you're with your public or private school and you got the kids at home, you work full-time or part-time, whether or not you're homeschooling, maybe this is your first year or you've been doing this for a while, today's message will apply and hopefully be some golden nuggets for you no matter what your situation is. So one of the most frequently asked questions we've been getting in the last really 4, 5, or 6 months since shelter at home started in the spring is this. How do I organize my day? How do I schedule the day? What's the routine of the day look like? They don't ask it this way, and you may not be thinking, what's the flow of the day? But that's actually one of the keys to part of the answers. So we have been telling people the same advice that we got 25 years ago when we first started, and that's just stop, take a breath, exhale, relax, and read to the kids. So one question for you, have you been reading to the kids this week? Reading, sitting on the couch, snuggling up with your young kids, even doing a read aloud with your teenagers. We're doing a read aloud, Fahrenheit 451, with our 2 teenage boys, where they listen to mom read. They love it. Because reading aloud, reading to your kids, it has a calming effect in its own right. Now, I've already given you a couple of things, but I want to tell you that I'm going to give you 4 ways to make the most of this moment and a bonus idea, okay? So hang in there with me. So reading calms the mood in the house. Everybody stops, pauses, and listens to the story being read. So here's one of the things that I know you're probably thinking as you're going through this first week, as you're trying to figure this out, as you got the kids at home. You know you're going to have to be intentional about this. You can't just wing it. That's actually a good thing to be aware of and to hear and know as people are asking, how do I organize my day? How can the day look like so I can succeed here? And part of the answer is to be intentional. Sometimes Rachel and I will say, think hard once rather than just doing whatever or figuring out too much on the fly. Now, you need to be flexible. You can't always predict everything that's going to happen, but being intentional with the fact that you've got the kids home, let's not just do whatever during the day. What should the day look like? You don't want to squander this opportunity. There's going to be a lot of folks right now that are throwing up their hands or wringing their hands saying, oh, well, maybe this will just pass and I won't have to worry about it. Well, you're here. It's late August. School is starting. And maybe your public or private school is just, it's not working at all. And you got to figure something out and you're going to bring the kids home next week or the week after. Here's what you need to know. Be intentional and don't squander this great opportunity. This, what I like to think of as a providential moment. This is an act of God in many ways, where the whole world is on hold and the whole world is pivoting and trying to figure out how to do this. And there used to be 3 million families homeschooling. there were 57 million in public or private school. We've seen stats that 20, 40, 60, or 80%, we don't know the numbers yet, but a huge number of those families are homeschooling now or doing something and needing help from homeschoolers. So you are saying, Davis, this is all great, but please tell me those 4 ways to make the most of this moment. So let me start by telling you this. I'm going to tell you these. Have you ever heard of this before? What are the 20 most important minutes of the day? Have you ever heard that before? The answer is 4 different 5-minute blocks of time, making up the 20 most important minutes of the day. So what are those 4 most important 5 minutes? The first 5 minutes when you wake up, the first 5 minutes before you leave the house, the first 5 minutes when you return to the house, and the last 5 minutes of the day before you go to bed or go to sleep. So in your interactions and relationships with your spouse or even with your kids, those are often considered a great source of wisdom to remember to make the most of that 20 minutes, those 4 5-minute moments. I have something similar to share with you, and it comes from Deuteronomy 6. Deuteronomy 6 offers 4 very practical times to make the most of the moment with your children. So what does Deuteronomy 6 say? Verse 4 through 7 says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. These words I command to you today to be in your heart. Teach them diligently to your children." Listen here. Here's your 4 times. When to teach these? You shall teach of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. All right, let's put those in chronological order of the day. When you rise up, when you sit down, when you travel along the way, and when you go to bed. So what are those 4 times? Morning time, meal time, van time, and bedtime. You can remember these 4 times. These are the 4 most important times in your home with your kids. So, you want to be intentional? You want to make the most of this opportunity? You don't want to squander this moment? Then what can you do during each of those 4 times? Well, let's look at morning time. What does it look like when your kids get up? When you walk in there and say, "Hey, get up, you sleepy heads." This is a great opportunity to come in positive. Rachael would sometimes sing a song to our kids when they were young when we'd walk in there. Recite a verse. "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." Give them a kiss. What kid doesn't need a kiss on the forehead to gently wake them up? There's so many positive things you can do to be with your kids. Don't just poke your head in the door and say, "Get up, breakfast is ready." Go in and engage, maybe for 5 minutes, with those kids, helping them get up. Maybe if they're really young and need help getting dressed, help them get dressed. If they need help brushing their teeth, brush their teeth with them. Talk with them. One of the questions I always loved to ask my kids when they were young and we'd wake up is I said, "Did you have any dreams last night?" "Yes, Dad, I did." "What was it?" "Oh, I'm trying to remember." And then they'd remember and tell me, or, "Oh, I forgot." And the next day they'd want to remember because they knew Dad was going to ask them that question. That was a question I would ask them often. It's just part of our routine. So make this a great tradition. What do the mornings look like to where your kids leave the home and think back, "Oh, I loved it when I was a kid and Mom or Dad would come in and wake me up in the morning because of the following." How did you make it special? So make morning times special. All right, next is meal times, morning times, meal times. I tell you what, if you're at home with the kids, you have 3 opportunities, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you're with them, make the most of mealtime. And so here's ways to do that. Don't eat at separate times. Make the food together. Sit down together. Eat together. Nobody leaves before somebody else is done. You all finish at the same time and leave. Now we would there are times where people need to start getting on with other things. And we had a little phrase. You couldn't just leave a meal. You had to say, "Thank you for breakfast. It was delicious. Now may I be excused to get on with the day." And we had a little rhythm and rhyme to that. And for dinner, we had the same kind of thing. Thank you for dinner. It was superior. Now may I be excused to get on with the day. And it was just a little tradition, a little fun thing we did with the kids. And that was also kind of signaled, we're all done, it's time to go. Lingering conversations. Meal times are a great time for conversation with your kids. Don't rush it. Be there, engage with your kids. And I hope I don't have to say this, but no phones while dining. No texting and driving, no texting and dining. Get rid of your phones, get rid of your screens. If you have it in your pocket and it dings, do not answer it, ignore it completely. Engage fully with your family during mealtime. Mealtime is another great opportunity for catechisms. We actually have a catechism book that we are reading right now. We have had other catechism books that we've read through the year. And what a catechism is really just a systematic way of reading through the doctrines and the teachings and the beliefs of the church. The Lord's Prayer, the Ten Commandments, the Nicene Creed, all these kind of things are often put in books, or you can just read the Bible. There's so many good short books, short devotionals that you can read to your kids at dinner time. Another thing we did for years and years was memorize our verses. Our kids were in Awana, proves workmen are not ashamed, rightly dividing the word of God. Love Awana, it hides the word of God in your heart. It's basically a Bible memorization program. So if you have young ones, I would highly recommend you find an Awana program near you. It was very good for our family, loved it. And all the meal times were times where we would literally go around the table and everybody would recite the verse or the next part of the verse. Everyone would have a chance, including mom or dad. And you do that for 1 or 2 or 3 meals a day, for 5, 6, 7 days a week, week after week, and you memorize short sections, long sections. You are memorizing God's word in a beautiful way that makes great memories that your kids look back on fondly. But more importantly, you're making the most of that moment at the time. All right, so that's meal times. Just make sure I didn't forget anything else for meal times. All right. Now, meal times is one of the times you're sitting down. Reading time is another time when you're sitting down. So making the most of that reading time. It's not just about reading. It's really about teaching your kids diligently when you're sitting. Meal times is a time when you're sitting. Reading, sitting on the couch, sitting on the front porch is another time when you're sitting. And that's a time where you can let your kids walk around the couch so they can listen, fidget while they're listening, color, do Legos, crochet, hold their doll, whatever they need to do. So we got 2 times so far: morning time, meal time. Those are 2 times that Deuteronomy 6 says to make special. When you rise up, when you sit down. What are 2 other times? When you walk along the way. Okay, you know what? I hope you're taking walks as a family. That's a great time to have conversations with your kids. But I'm talking about travel time, car time, van time. How do you make the most of the moment when you are in the van or the car with your kids? Well, here's one thing I would say. Turn off the DVD. Don't buy a car with a DVD, and it's kind of hard these days, but don't watch movies in your car, especially if you're just traveling in commuting style, your 10 or 15 or 20 minute commute around town to places. Why? Because you have a captive audience. They're buckled in their car seat. They're buckled up in a seatbelt. You have a great time to talk with them. So how's your day going so far? Tell me about this. I mean, all kinds of conversations can happen in a car if you engage with them. Now, I will say, listening to audiobooks is a great thing, but we typically only did that on long car drives to grandma and grandpa's or to see a friend or go on vacation. I'm telling you, we never watched movies in a car. I take it back. I actually bought this one little 6-inch DVD player one time, and we watched Lord of the Rings this one time when the kids were teenagers coming back one time. But it wasn't real easy. It was kind of awkward and clunky on purpose, made it difficult. And once the first movie was over, we said, yeah, let's talk. Let's talk about the movie. Let's talk about this. But I'm telling you, avoid movies in the car. Conversations are going to be much more valuable. What else about the cars? Okay, let's go to the 4th one, bedtime. So we got morning time, meal time, van time, and bedtime. Don't rush the kids to bed. Don't throw them in and get on with your business. I know as parents, you can't wait for them to be asleep and still so that you can finally really exhale and take a deep breath and just, oh my goodness, that was tiring. Parenting's hard work, it really is. But when you put your kids to bed, spend time with them again. A long 5 minutes for you, really a short 5 minutes. Brushing their teeth, saying the prayers with them, reading them a book, giving them a hug, giving them butterfly kisses. And one of the things that my kids loved when I would put them to bed was, Daddy, tell me a story. So they loved it when I read them books, but more than that, they loved it when I made up a story and would tell them a story, and I would often not finish it, and it would go into the next night. And I'm literally making it up as I'm going. But it was just engaging with them. It was speaking in their language. It was giving them time. And just like at meal times, there should be 0 screens in your kids' beds. There should be no phones or screens in your bed in terms of, put the phone. But as you are putting them to bed, they should not be watching TV. They should not have access to the internet. No screens for kids, for heaven's sake. It seems like it should be obvious, but you want to be an intentional parenting. You want to make the most of this moment. You start a new formula, a new tradition, a new way of life, a new culture with your family this week or whenever you start your homeschool. No more screens at bedtime for everybody. Now, that can be hard. That can be, especially if it's cold turkey for you and they've had it. But that's one of the worst things for kids. They stay up forever and late. My teenage boys are talking about some of their friends who stay up till 1 and 2 in the morning because they can't put their phone down. So you got to let your kids go to bed without the screen so that they can get a good night's sleep, for one, but also so they can not have bad things come into their mind that they shouldn't be seeing and reading and listening to at that time of hour. One of the other disciplines we did, because we did allow our kids to listen to audiobooks at night, and they loved audiobooks. They loved them so much that they were beginning to be too much of an issue, quite frankly, in our home. And I had to institute nothing night. Now, nothing night was when you couldn't read a book. You couldn't listen to an audiobook. We were already not watching any TV or having movies or any screens in their rooms. So what's a kid to do? Dad, can I play with the Lego? No. We got to do something. No, tonight's the night I want you to think about things. I want you to think about God. I want you to say prayers. You can recite the verses that we've been memorizing in your head. You can tell each other stories quietly. But tonight is nothing night. Basically, no media night. And that was one of the hardest nights we had for our kids, but it was one of the best disciplines we had for our kids, because it's good to learn how to be still and know that I am God. That's what the scriptures talks about. And so many of us have a hard time being still, being quiet. And so instill that habit in your kids. So I got that bonus for you. Don't leave yet. So the 4 ways to make the most of this moment come straight from Deuteronomy 6. Morning time, meal time, van time, and bedtime. Make the most of it. And now here's your bonus. If you're at home and you got the kids and you're during the day it's really hard and you can't wait for bedtime to come so you can put them down, you can have nap time. We loved nap time. Rachel and I loved nap time, where you put the kids down from 1 to 3 or 1 to 3:30, something like that in the afternoon. And the kids are asleep for 2.5 luxurious hours. And you can finally get something done. You can at least get that break. And depending on the age of your kids, they may not take a nap every day. Younger kids will, but as they get older, they may not. We still had a nap day. There were times we had nap time all through the week, but then we made Wednesday our nap day. Part of it was because Wednesday was a Awana night. So it was already going to be a late night, and they were going to be exhausted and cranky if we didn't take a break and take a nap in the middle of the day. So that was part of why we did it. You can figure out what day works for you, but if that can work for you, don't be afraid to be intentional as the parent and institute nap day or nap time, whatever works for you. So I hope this is all helpful. At Apologia, we exist to help homeschooling families learn, live, and defend the Christian faith. And we want you to live this homeschooling lifestyle, this way of life successfully in a way that honors Christ and in a way where you experience all the wonders and joy that homeschooling has to offer. So great being with you today. I hope that helps. Davis Carman, walking by faith and enjoying the homeschooling adventure of a lifetime. Have a great day.